Okay, let's dive right into this explainer, because honestly, what we're looking at today is a total, unprecedented regulatory earthquake. We're talking about the abrupt global shutdown of Anthropic's newest frontier models, Fable 5 and Mythos 5. If you're a policy analyst monitoring global AI regulations like we are, or even just a dev who practically lives in these tools, you know the landscape didn't just shift here, it completely collapsed underneath our feet. Today, we're going to unpack exactly what this extraordinary event means for the future of global tech sovereignty. So let's plunge right into the action. On June 12th, at exactly 5:21 p.m. Eastern Time, a directive from the U.S. Commerce Department forced Anthropic to just pull the plug on everyone. The directive cited national security authorities and explicitly barred any foreign national, literally anyone, anywhere in the world, which even included Anthropic's own non-US employees, from accessing the models. And because Anthropic couldn't just selectively filter out users by nationality in real time, they were forced into a corner where they had to abruptly disable the models for their entire global user base just to ensure compliance. To really grasp the whiplash of this situation, you have to look at how incredibly tight this window was. Fable 5, which was the highly anticipated, publicly available version of Anthropic's Mythos class architecture, launched on June 9th, right? Then, just 72 hours later, that massive product launch unraveled entirely. 3 days from launch to a total indefinite global suspension. It's an absolutely stunning turnaround that left the whole tech industry completely reeling. Now, to understand the true stakes here, we really have to rewind and look at the immense excitement that preceded this shutdown. Designers and developers were absolutely thrilled. People were instantly treating Fable 5 as this massive leap in personal productivity. I mean, imagine getting your hands on a tool that instantly compresses literally years of work into a few hours, only to have it ripped away the very next day. Users were reporting unprecedented speed, knocking out complex tasks in a fraction of the time it normally takes. The community was just blown away by its advanced vision capabilities and coding proficiency. People weren't using it as a glorified search engine. They were treating it like a highly capable, autonomous colleague. When you hear the notoriously skeptical developer community describing an AI as a mature, calm, and down-to-earth programmer, you know that is seriously high praise. And honestly, that intense, passionate early adoption is exactly what makes the sudden, total loss of the tool so jarring for everyone whose workflows just broke overnight. Because look, Fable 5 wasn't just some fun toy. The hard data showed it was absolutely crushing serious enterprise benchmarks. Take that first metric, for example. It did a 100% migration of a 50 million line Stripe Ruby codebase in a single day. That's a task equivalent to about 2 months of human labor. It also achieved the top score on the Cognition Frontier Code benchmark, and it exceeded the older Opus 4.8 model by over 10% in senior-level finance reasoning. It was a true powerhouse, plain and simple. But the reality check came swiftly, and the source of the takedown actually came from inside the house, so to speak. The catalyst traces back to researchers at Amazon, which, by the way, happens to be a massive financial backer of Anthropic. Well, these researchers managed to bypass Fable's safety guardrails through a sequence of targeted prompts. This effectively forced the model to generate detailed information on software vulnerabilities. And what happened next is what caused a massive uproar. Rather than following standard coordinated vulnerability disclosure protocols, Amazon CEO Andy Jassy bypassed Anthropic's leadership entirely. He escalated the security report directly to senior Trump administration officials. Naturally, the community backlash was fierce. We're talking nearly 89% of public sentiment surrounding Jassy's involvement skewing heavily negative, with a ton of debate and speculation over his motives, especially since Amazon's own proprietary AI models were sort of lagging behind Claude at the time. Anthropic, for their part, fiercely pushed back against the government's rationale. They argued impartially that the so-called jailbreak was actually incredibly minor. They described it as a narrow, non-universal jailbreak that essentially just asked the model to read a code base and identify bugs. On top of that, Anthropic pointed out that this exact level of capability is already widely available in other models currently on the market, like OpenAI's GPT 5.5, and it's something used every single day by cybersecurity defenders to keep systems safe. So, from a security policy perspective, you really have to look at Anthropic's defense-in-depth strategy to understand their position. They knew perfect jailbreak resistance is impossible today. That's exactly why Fable 5 came with a mandatory 30-day data retention requirement on AWS Bedrock. This built-in buffer allowed their security teams to actively monitor prompts, identify patterns of abuse, and quickly patch exactly the type of exploit the Amazon researchers found. It was a proactive defense mechanism that was entirely short-circuited by the abrupt ban.
Now, for anyone analyzing global AI regulations, this is where it gets fascinating because it reveals a massive macro policy shift. Historically, U.S. export controls on AI focused entirely on hardware, restricting the sale of physical advanced microchips to rival nations. You can track a physical chip, but this directive represents a dramatic, almost overnight transition to regulating the software layer. We're now talking about restricting digital API endpoints based purely on a user's passport. And because you obviously can't easily verify a cloud user's nationality in real time, the blunt force of this ban created immense collateral damage. Global enterprise workflows were instantly broken. Authorized allied defense networks like NATO and ENISA were completely disconnected without any warning whatsoever. Major cloud providers like AWS and Google Cloud are suddenly facing impossible compliance headaches. And the craziest part? Even non-US employees working legally at US tech firms were literally locked out of their own tools.
This sudden, sweeping disruption has rapidly accelerated a vital geopolitical concept that you've probably been hearing a lot about: AI sovereignty. This was a harsh reality check for allied nations and global enterprises. They are suddenly waking up to the fact that they cannot rely on American cloud infrastructure or US-based frontier models if their access can be politically revoked overnight without any service agreement protecting them.
As a direct consequence of this realization, we are seeing massive international reactions. Just look at the UK. They instantly pointed to the Fable 5 ban as the core justification to invest a staggering £1.1 billion into their own sovereign AI chip infrastructure. They essentially want to eliminate their dependence on US cloud providers, making absolutely sure their tech access can never be arbitrarily switched off by a foreign government again. So as a result, this single event has built an entirely new regulatory landscape for the future. We're likely looking at a major shift from voluntary AI safety reviews to mandatory federal vetting before any capable model is even released. Furthermore, experts are warning that we might soon see mandatory identity and citizenship verification just to use an API. And because of all this instability, enterprises are going to be entirely rethinking their tech stacks, pushing heavily towards self-hosted, open weights models that they can actually control themselves. Ultimately, this leaves us with a provocative and lingering geopolitical question. By weaponizing commercial software access over a disputed security vulnerability, has the US government permanently damaged the global market's trust in American cloud providers? Because right now, every chief technology officer around the world just got a free, very painful demonstration that building on the American tech stack comes with a political single point of failure. It's a fascinating, highly complex reality, and the ripples of the Fable 5 recall will for sure be felt across the tech industry for years to come. Thanks for tuning into this explainer, and definitely keep a close eye on how this regulatory space evolves.